So Tana Rabbana. So the Gemara, we're now on 30b4. Tana Rabbana, or 30b5. If it's a b5, then it's 30b5. The end is Tana Rabbana. La'olam, a person needs to be the end on the right side. Anvatan ki Hillel. A person should be humble like Hillel. You need to learn from Hillel how to be. You should always that style of life of Hillel, of being very humble, is something that we need to go ahead and to emulate.
Is the guy bothering you when he's in the shower?
Yes, yes, yes. Va'al yeh kapdan kishamai. And don't be a kapdan. Don't be someone who is, good morning, Boker Tov. Don't be someone who is particular about things, more strict, meaning of the more strict type, um, like Shammai. Now, I saw one of the commentators explain. Obviously, Shammai was a big tzaddik. Shammai was he was one of the leading rabbis, but he knew how to be a kapdan. He knew how to be strict, how to be strong, but not everyone's able to know how to do it right. And therefore, that's not the style in life when you want to pick a style, how to follow, what type of style to follow. You should take the style of humility. Oh, look who's here, Ariel. And we welcome, thank you for joining as well. Thank you for joining us. You come into a very famous Gemara. So you should be humble and noach lebriot. You should be very patient, kind. Shammai is also, but in a different, his style. So the Gemara, um, it says you should be humble like Hillel, yet it says don't be strong like Shammai. Um, so what? It seems a little redundant. If you tell me if you're humble like Hillel, so of course that means you're not like Shammai. You're not that strong like Shammai. So it's come to teach us, even if you don't feel you're capable of being so humble like Hillel, but nevertheless, the Vilna Gaon says, but the fact that you can't be so humble like Hillel does not mean, therefore, you take the other mindset of being strong like Shammai. Okay, you do what you can with what you can do. So you won't be, let's say 1 to 10, you should be a 10 in humility, let's say, right? So if you can't be 10 in humility, so therefore that doesn't mean you go all the other way and I'm going to take that stricter approach to Shammai. Rather, just don't reach that level of strictness like Shammai. And the Vilna Gaon says Shammai had the right to act with strictness because he knew how to use that midah, but not everybody knows how to do that. Sometimes there are parents that you're supposed to discipline children, but if a parent does not know how to discipline, therefore they overdo it, then the fact that you got to, you can't, it's like the person, there's a mitzvah, they give mussar. Someone goes ahead and he does something wrong, you have a mitzvah to correct them. But if you don't know how to correct the person, if you're going to embarrass the person in public, so you're not, you can't correct. So if you don't know how to be strict, like Shammai knew exactly when to be strict, how to be strict, you don't be strict. Okay, and now the Gemara is going to illustrate stories to get a picture of what, so to speak, what's the role model of humility that we're supposed to have. If anybody wants a copy of the Gemara in this closet, that we didn't take, there's more copies of the Gemara. Nathan likes to do it by heart. Yeah. Now, so the Gemara says, Maisa b'shnei. By the way, we're starting off good after Simchat Torah. Look, we got some more people back in the class. Maisa b'shnei b'nei Adam. There was a story with two people. Shehim Zeh. Two people on the left side, right over here. Yeah, right here. Two people. You might want to get a French one for you. For you?
Hello.
Maisa, there are two people, Shimru Zeh. They made a bet. Now, a bet is not something that we generally like to do. But here they made a,
Trading Places,
what did you say?
the movie Trading Places, the bet that the two brothers made. I never saw it. First of all, you need to see the movie. The two brothers made a bet that they could get someone who was very, it's a different sort of bet, but someone who was very highborn to get him, and they were gonna take away all of his money and whatever, and what would happen to him when he became a beggar, etc. And they took this Vietnam vet off the park, and they put him in the spot of the other one. It's just
See
a
how they, what year is the movie? Because if the movie is an old movie,
77, 78.
okay, that's a little better than recent movies.
Yes.
Because the cleanliness of such movies are much better
Yes.
than today's movies. Shehimru Ze'ezeh. So they made this bet. What was their bet? Umru. They said, Kol mi sheyilich v'yaktin et Hillel. Anybody who could go ahead and get Hillel to be angry will be a winner of 400 zuz. Yitain yitol arbameo zuz. They'll take 400 zuz. So now they said they made this bet. So this guy gave, the winner will get, either I'll give up $400 or you'll give up $400. Someone's going to be gaining $400 if they, morning, Mark.
Hello, Rabbi.
Mark, we're learning a very famous Gemara. We just said that two people made a bet. What were they betting about? Now, like we said, generally people shouldn't bet, but they were betting that who could get Hillel angry. Whoever's capable of getting Hillel angry will win the $400. So now one guy is obviously saying, I'm going to put in $400. Hillel won't get angry. The other guy says, no, I'm willing to bet $400 that Hillel will get angry. And so one guy said, or they just said among each other, anybody get Hillel angry will take. So one guy took the side, I could do it. The other guy said, you're not going to be able to do it. So what happened was, one of them said, I'm going to be able to get him angry, and I'll win the bet. That day was on Friday. So it seems that the day, maybe they made the bet, or they were waiting for Friday. The Hillel Chafet Rosho, and Hillel was shampooing his hair in honor of Shabbat. So the Vilna Gaon says, from here we see, it's a mitzvah, God bless you, to shampoo your hair, to clean your hair in honor of the Shabbat. And so what happened? Halach va'ava al petach beito. He passed by the entranceway of the house of Hillel. Amar, and he said in a derogatory language, Mikan Hillel. Mikan Hillel. Is Hillel here? Instead of saying, is the Nasi, is the Prince of Israel here? He called him, referring to him by his first name. Is he here? Is he here? And the Marsha says, the person who made the bet intended specifically to go at a time. Everyone knows when everyone's taking their showers or washing their hair. Most probably, maybe he's doing his hair in the courtyard or whatever. He knew the time when he's washing his hair, because everybody is. It's not a time that people are very rushed when they're washing their hair. And he also calls to Hillel that Hillel should come out to him. And it's Hillel here. Now everybody. So he calls it's Hillel here. It's Hillel here. So Nisatef, so Hillel gets dressed, wraps himself, and he goes out to meet the person. So he interrupts his shower to meet the person. He didn't ignore the person. By the way, there is a similar story of Moshe Feinstein. I don't know if it's similar, but it reminds you of a story. And what was the story? The story goes that somebody was calling a friend, and the friend's name is Moshe. So he calls, let's say, across the street or across somewhere, Moshe. And who turns around? But Moshe Feinstein. Now, you're referring to, if he was called Moshe Feinstein, usually you don't refer to Moshe Feinstein by his first name. That's a very derogatory, just like you can't call a parent by their first name. I wonder in the generation today that we live in, how people are already becoming the level of chutzpah, referring to their parents by their first name. But Mikan Hill, therefore, Moshe turned around as if the person was calling him. That was part, they pointed out as part of Moshe Feinstein's humility. So here he goes ahead and he asks, so Hillel goes out, he gets dressed, he goes out to greet him. Amalo B'ni. He refers to the young man who asked the question, who's calling out to him, Mikan Hillel, my son, Ma'ata Mevakesh. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? What would you like? Amalo She'ela Yeshli Lisho. I have a question. Now, usually, Friday afternoon, when people are taking showers, when someone calls the rabbi, it should be usually it's a question that really is something that's a time-related question. You know, regarding cooking for Shabbat, or what do I do with this? Whatever the halachic question people have, before Shabbat. They also talk about Moshe Feinstein's humility that a lady would call him every Friday. What time is candlelight? And every Friday he would say, he could have said, you know what? You could look up at a calendar. You don't need to call me every week. But that was part of his humility, was like to give it to answer the question. So this is the time that you would think he's going to be asking a question that has to do with the Shabbat, right? Friday afternoon, right before Shabbat, you call the rabbi with something, usually, hopefully, that's something, it's a time-related question. By the way, if you ever need to call the rabbi, don't hesitate. Call the rabbi. Don't think too much. But we'll see from our Gemara over here. Don't think, if you think too much, it's no good. Yes, the question. So, Amalai Shal B'ni Shal, go ask me the question. And the Ben Yoda, the Ben Ishchai, makes a nice point. He didn't just say Sha'al. He said, Sha'al, ask, my son, ask. As if to say, you can ask many questions. I have all the time in the world for you. And he says, why are the heads of the Babylonian people, their heads aren't round properly, the normal roundness of a head? They're wide a certain amount. That's how it's not the normal stuff. There's a shot that Rashi brings down that he means that they're actually round, not like the way other people's heads are round. There's something unusual about the form of the face, of the head of the Babylonian people. So let's say here that they're in Israel and they're asking the question about the Babylonian people. Why are their heads different? Just like you can ask the question of the Chinese, their eyes are different, right? Everything has a reason. So why are the heads of the Babylonians round? So now? Let me ask you a question. First of all, is this a question that you really need to know now, Friday afternoon, when we're getting ready for Shabbat? I mean, is there any halachic ramifications of this question? I don't think there's halachic ramifications of this question. That's number one. But look at the response that Hillel says. Hillel says, this is a big lesson for all rabbis and all teachers. She'ila gedula sha'alta. You've asked a big question. Now, now, on the surface, it doesn't seem like this is such a big question. That's a great question. I mean, you made an observation of something. It's you want to understand something, you have a depth of a question, but this is a big question. But that is part of the job of a teacher, a rabbi, is that when a person asks a question, even if the question is not of great significance, you got to make the person who asked the question feel good about asking a question. Because then when the question is really important, I have a question about Hilchot Nida, what do I do regarding, I need a mikveh, whatever then they'll ask that question. But if the response of the rabbi, when the person asks the question, is like, it's not what kind of question is that? Whatever that is, it's not so important for you to ask this question, then they're not going to ask questions when they really need to ask the question. That's one way you could explain. The Sfat Emet says that even though it appears that the question seems to be so insignificant, what do you call trivial, so to speak, and maybe that was the intention of the one who's asking the question, just to ask a trivial question, just to get the rabbi, trying to get the rabbi upset. But it is really a great point, a great question. Because why is it a great question? Because you have to look when things are different. And if someone was created differently, there has to be a reason for it. Meaning Hashem created the people this way, right? If all the Babylonians are this way, or you notice something in creation, right? This is the parsha of creation. So there's a reason for it. So that's, maybe that's an idea. You're supposed to look into the creations of Hashem and understand why is this one different than that one. This has split hoofs, this doesn't have split hoofs. What about, see, there's different things you can notice in creation. So that's what the Sfat Emes wants to say. Now, and the Maritz Chios is the following. This week's parsha is Parshas Bereshit, as we said before. And Bereshit, person was created one. Hashem created one person, and from that person came the rest of the world. Now, the intention of the person who was asking the question was like trying to say, to question the emunah, to question the faith that the world came from one person, because the fact that we see that people are different. This guy's head is different. All the people from Babylon's head is different than all the other people. Maybe it seems to indicate maybe there were different people that were created, and everybody comes from different people. It wasn't that God created morning asaf. That would be perhaps what he was trying to get at. Person wanted in his question, trying to get the rabbi upset by indicating that Adam was not created alone. And Hillel answers, no, we all came from one person. We all came from Adam. But the place of where they lived affects how their body looks. Sometimes if you don't have good women who know, or good doctors who know how to be gynecologists, midwives, so then the head might come out a certain way. That it won't be. We'll see. We'll see. The Gemara is going to go into different situations, different environments. See, he says the reason is when they say ein lehem chayot tikchot. Morning, Mark. Mark, the Gemara is waiting for you. They don't have smart, intelligent midwives. And because of that, the heads don't come out like everybody else's head comes out. Halach v'himtin sha'achat. So then we call this person, this character, if we could refer to him like that. Not nice to refer to people in a negative way, but this guy's a negative person. He's trying to get Hillel, to get angry, right? That's what he's trying to do. And he waits an hour, a certain amount, he waits a certain amount of time for Hillel to get back, finishing his other preparations, of finishing his shower or whatever he was doing. And the Sechemet says it's not referring to an hour, it's just a certain amount of time. He waited a few minutes or so. He waited a few minutes, and then Chazai comes back to the doorway of Hillel's house while he's still, let's say, still busy finishing his hair. V'amar mikan Hillel. Is Hillel here? Is Hillel here? Now, you know Hillel is here. You're just there. You're outside the door. So this also indicates that the first time that he said, is Hillel here? He also knew Hillel was home. Where's the rabbi right before Shabbat? He's home. He has to get his preparations. So he knew the whole time he's home. But it's like is Hillel here? Is Hillel here? Very derogatory. And he says the question again. No title. Mikan Hillel, Mikan Hillel. And the Sateif, the Yotzal Hillel again gets dressed and he goes out to meet. Mark, you with me on 31A? We're on 31A, 31A1. 31A1. Yeah, 31A1. The first column. It's probably in the middle of the first column somewhere. Yeah. So he says, Mikan Hillel. So what is Hillel's response? So again, he goes out. Amalo b'ni mat. By the way, he goes out. He wraps himself up to greet him. Mikan Hillel. We are 31A1. The whole 9 yards. The Satef, I mean, he wrapped himself up the proper way you wrap yourself up. The proper head covering would sound like ituf, like we do the Satef, like language in the Satef, with the talit. You wrap yourself up. He's totally wrapped. He comes out and he says, Amalo bini. He goes to greet him. Amalo bini, my son, ma tamavakesh. What are you looking for? What do you need? Amalo sheila yeshli, shall I have a question to ask? Amalo sha'al bini sha'al. Again, ask, my son, ask. How do you like that? Beautiful, right? With such humility. V'bnei ma einehem shel Talmudim terudot. The eyes of the Talmudim are a trudot. So some say trudot is teary, and that's one shot. And Rashi says a different shot that they're round, and they're not long, like our eyes. That's his question. What a very important question to ask Friday afternoon, right? Why are the eyes of the Talmudim to certain people, certain community of people? Why are they round? And they're only open. The Orof says they're round, and the opening is very small. It's a very small window of the eye for them to. Chinese is a little bit like that, also, or not really? A little bit. What do you say? They don't have that wide. They're not so wide, right? It's not round, but I'm saying, but the width of their eye, I think it's a little bit smaller, right? I think their lenses it might be a little right, but it's a smaller lens, I think, than we have than the regular people. So he says, why are they eyes round? Amalo b'ni shayla gedola shalta. You asked a great question. Again, this how you talk to. But not only is not, and he's praising him. Mark. You're sure he's Mark as the example. Reuven, you asked a great question. And he says, why is it a great? They live in sandy areas. So in the sandy areas, when the wind blows the sand, it will go into their eyes. So Hashem made it that their window of eyes are smaller, so it won't be so much sand to go into their eyes, or the way the eyes are, that's how it's going. Either that's the reason why it's teary, or that's the reason why Hashem made their eyes in such a fashion. But again, this also you're on 31A1, and it's in the bottom of column 1, right? Yeah, we're now at the bottom of the first column, about 6 lines before the bottom of the first column. Okay, so that was the answer. That was the answer of the eyes. So that they have, it gave them rounder and smaller eye sockets. So when there's the windstorms, that it'll be protected from the blowing sand. So now, question number 3. Halach v'himtin sha'achat. Again, the asker of the questions waits a little bit of time, and he says, "Ama mikan Hillel chazal lebeito," comes back to the entranceway of Hillel's house. V'ama mikan Hillel. Is Hillel here? Is Hillel here? The tate, again, derogatory. The tate v'yasel l'kroto. Hillel gets up and he goes out to greet him. Amalo, Bini, my son. Again, now how many times did he refer to him as my son? Good morning. Bini, my son. Mata mevakesh. Morning. What? Morning. Boker tov. Nice. Good morning. Boker tov. Mata mevakesh. He says to the man, we're just learning a Gemara about someone made a bet. We don't recommend bets, but he made a bet that he could get. We're living in a generation of bettors, as we all know. And people got to be careful. And they bet that I could get Hillel angry. They bet 400 zuz. It's a large amount of money. The other guy says, no, you're not going to be, I bet he's not going to get angry. And we're talking about someone trying, the one who bet that he's going to get Hillel angry, how he's trying to get Hillel angry, and he's not going to be successful. So here he says, once this comes to Hillel, Erev Shabbat, Friday afternoon, things are busy, Hillel's washing his hair, and it tries to get him, disturb him, and he says, why are the feet of the Africans wide? Why are their feet wide? What an amazing, important question to ask Friday afternoon right before Shabbat. Obviously, and then they try, I'm being a little whatever. Yeah. He said, why are their feet wide? Why are their feet wide? So, a person who's not humble would say, okay, I think it's not such an important question at this time of the day, whatever it is. So again, Hillel responds, Bini, my son, it's an amazing question. You asked an amazing question. Building up and by the way, there is one of the Svarim writes, sometimes a teacher could exaggerate a compliment to a student just to help build the student. You have to build. The job of a teacher of a rabbi is to build the students. Even if the student is not deserving of the compliment, but that's going to positive reinforcement. It's going to make the person feel good. It's not called flattering in an inappropriate fashion. It's called building the student. Because they're living in places with a lot of swampy areas, and therefore Hashem made it that their feet are wide. They're able to handle. They won't fall in, and they won't fall in. It's an amazing blessing that God makes for the Africans, that they should go ahead and live in such climate. And there's another pshat. That's one pshat. And Rashi brings another pshat. When you wear shoes, the shoes keep your foot at a certain width. It keeps it, in place. But but Africans are not wearing shoes. They're going barefoot. But they're going barefoot, so they don't have the shoe to keep their foot a certain size, and therefore their foot is wider. So that is another explanation of why their feet are wide. Amalo. So, by the way, we have, in baseball, we say 3 strikes. 3 strikes, you're out, right? Right, Mark, we say in baseball, 3 strikes, you're out. So the guy asked 3 questions, try to get Hillel angry, and he struck out all three questions. Amalo. So the guy said, She'ilot harbe yesh l'isho. I have many questions to ask. I have many questions to ask. Good morning. But I'm afraid that what? Ani shema techos. I'm afraid you're going to go ahead and get angry. That's what the guy says. So the commentary says over here, this statement was also to test Hillel. So it's not only strike 3, he tried a 4th time. Because he thought that Hillel will respond that you're foolish, that you think you think that you're going to get me angry after you tried all those 3 times already. And what is Hillel's response? Hillel says, Amalo, all the questions that you have, ask me. You're afraid you're going to get me angry? You're not going to get me angry. Kol she'lo she'ish lach lishol she'al. All the questions that you have to ask, ask. Amalo, he says to him, Atu Hillel, are you Hillel shekoren otcha nisi Yisrael? Are you Hillel that you're referred to as the prince of Israel? You know, you're the big rabbi, you're the leading rabbi. So Amalo, hey, I am, yeah, I am Hillel, the man is the Nasi. I'm the leading rabbi. Amalo, imatahu, if you're the man, lo yirbu kamutcha b'Yisrael. There shouldn't be anybody. I don't want anybody in Israel to be like you. I don't want people to be humble like you. Morning, because look, now Hillel says, I mean that's a very inappropriate statement to say to somebody. If you're Hillel and you're the leading rabbi, I don't want people like you. This the guy who wants to get Hillel angry. Someone wants to get Hillel angry. Someone wants to be negative to Hillel. The guy made a bet, said I'm going to get Hillel angry, and he wasn't able to get Hillel angry. So he says to Hillel, well, yes, he bet right, he bet to get it right exactly. So you know what? So Hillel says to him, Vini, my son, again, he talks to him with love. A guy says to you, there shouldn't be anyone like you in Israel. And what do you say, my son? Well, my son. So you say, you're not getting me. Livnei ma'ata. Livnei ma. Why do you say that? Why do you say there shouldn't be people like me? I'm alone because I lost money because of you. I don't want people like because because of your humility and you're so humble and you didn't get angry. I lost Abamei Zuz. I lost 400 Zuz. Amalo, I lost the bet. Amalo, Hillel says, Havi Zarir Birachacha. You should be careful what you're saying. You're making a mistake to say that you lost the money because of me. You lost the money. Kedai hu Hillel sheta'abed al yodo. And the way the commentary over here says, he says, if you would have recognized what type of person I am, you would have realized that I would not that you're going to lose the bet, because I am not going to get angry. Nothing is going to get me angry. So therefore, he says, you're worthy. Don't get involved. Meaning you're making a bet. You think you're going to win a bet on someone that you don't even realize who he is. You don't know that. You're making a bet on something. People make a bet on something. Not that people should bet. You should make a bet on something where you understand that you might win the bet. But here, I'm somebody. It's a law. There's nothing to talk about. I'm not a person who will get angry. Nothing's going to get me angry. Right. Right. So he says because you're worthy that you should lose the $400, and he says the Hillel lo yakbid, meaning not only you could have gained the $400 from the other person, not only you lost a possible gain of 400, you lost your own $400 because I'm not going to get angry. Maybe it's a big lesson in life for us. There's a whole sefer called Erech HaPayim on anger. Somewhere in the 1900s, that how important, and he tests different things, how he unbelievable safer, things that he tested, ideas how to prevent anger. So I think it's a great safe for people to learn, even someone who doesn't get angry, but it just also teach you how to deal with people who do get angry. Yes. Yeah, yes. Talking about himself. Yes. I mean, he's talking about himself. He doesn't talk about himself with rabbi. He talks about himself as Hillel, with humility. Thank you all for joining. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much. And we should have only smachot in the family. Thank you. Asaf, what a Gemara, right? Thank you very much. Here you are. Please, get rid of more people. I heard you're the reporter. What the fuck? Is it English version? Based on a Chacham,